That's why it's not necessary to take on our arguments. Do you know how often, you know how many comments there are on YouTube and other places on PragerU videos? This is right-wing propaganda. But they never want, or they tell lies at PragerU. But they never once, I've never come across an example. Really? We tell lies? Well, why don't you give 2 or 3 examples? We have 400 videos up.
Challenge accepted, Dennis. I've been wanting to do this video for years.
Prager University is a YouTube channel funded by frackers and created by a crazy man named Dennis Prager, getting a bunch of people from professors to historians to absolute assholes to talk about very complex topics in 5 minutes or less. Most of them are biased towards the right, with some of them bordering on fascism. Not every one of their videos are terrible, some of them are actually pretty decent, but they have a lot that are so bad they make even the not so bad ones look worse. I've known about them since 2015 and they've sort of become my own personal antidepressant. Anytime I'm feeling sad, I can watch some PragerU videos and they'll annoy me so much that I stop being sad. And since I liked doing that Lauren Southern video last year and want to let off a little steam, let's do another list of a horribly offensive YouTube channel. Don't worry, I'll be doing many Norty's Forgotten Flicks after this.
And again, I have to repeat that there are plenty of people on the left that annoy me as well, but problem with them is...
That is not the only problem, but if we were to point to a singular core issue, that's what went wrong with Crouching Pianist Hidden Street Fighter.
Alright dude, taking politics out of it, as a YouTube personality, you are boring. And I actually have a point to make at the end of this that I think will work best if I talk about this channel first.
So we're going to be doing a top 15 list in 2 parts. I obviously won't be able to cover everything in every video, so once again, I will leave links in the description to every video to prove I am not removing anything important or taking anyone out of context. These are the ones that infuriate me the most, and before I disappoint any of you, there will be no videos on here focusing on religion or climate change. I don't have much of a reaction to their religious videos unless they're just attacking Muslims, and their climate change ones are so dumb that they're almost comical. I can't get angry at them because even a 10-year-old could poke holes in their arguments. Oh, and I'm only doing their actual teaching videos, so none of their street interviews, fireside chats, or any videos by this little shitbag.
What's up guys, this is Will Witt with PragerU. Today we're at the 2019 Women's March in LA.
I'm gonna try and be as nice as I can, but Will Witt, you can go fuck yourself. I don't like you. But anyway, we got a lot of bullshit to get through, so these are my picks for the top 15 worst PragerU videos.
Number 15. Who needs feminism?
I am an anti-feminist.
Well, you work for Ben Shapiro's website, so yeah, I can believe you hate women.
Feminism is a mean-spirited, small-minded, and oppressive philosophy.
Mean-spirited? Since when do you guys give a shit about being mean-spirited?
That can poison relations between the sexes.
Which you, of course, never do.
We here at Clavin on the Culture fully support a woman's right to kill her children at any time and without warning. Relations which for most of us provide some of life's deepest pleasures and consolations.
Ugh, him talking about pleasures just makes me imagine him having sex. Ugh.
Feminism has attempted to bully us all into accepting an obvious lie. The lie that men and women have the same powers, talents, proclivities, and desires.
Alright, I have no idea what you mean by powers. You show superheroes, but they don't exist. But talents and desires? Some of them can have the same talents and desires. I mean, women can be good at football. Men can be good at being in their underwear.
Now, I'm going to have to speak in generalities, and I understand there are all kinds of exceptions to what I'm about to say.
Ah, the you can't criticize me because I put in the not all line.
Feminism denigrates masculinity in men by relentlessly calling us toxic for our flaws.
Okay, you're seriously starting to sound like feminism is some physical force that has its own opinions and ideas. Feminism is an ideology. It can't do anything. People who call themselves feminists may do that, but others may not. Oh, and that whole denigrating men thing, that's gonna become hilarious later.
Rather than appreciating our natural qualities of energy, risk-taking, and leadership.
Energy? Energy is a virtue of the male sex? Like, what does that even mean?
But it also denigrates femininity in women, working to replace most women's commitment to relationship and child-rearing with male obsessions, such as career status and strength.
Oh my god, this is just the Lorne Southern arguments over again. Just let women do what they want to do, whether it be building a family or starting a career or both.
Take a look at the quintessential feminist icon, Rosie the Riveter, flexing her muscle. The truth is, any man of the same size and fitness can make a bigger, stronger muscle than Rosie can.
You do know that Rosie isn't a symbol of strength, right? She was a symbol to get women into the workforce while the men were all fighting in World War II. How do you misunderstand Rosie the Riveter?
Isn't feminism simply the idea that women have the same human rights as men?
Yes.
No, it isn't.
Oh.
That philosophy is called classical liberalism.
Oh, Christ. Based on everyone I've seen who calls themselves a classical liberal, it's basically just a libertarian who's okay with being a racist, sexist asshole. But again, I'm just generalizing.
Doesn't the Declaration of Independence say that all men are created equal? Yes. Classical liberalism was an idea conceived by and largely for Christian white men.
Well, at least you acknowledge it.
Classical liberalism has evolved over time according to its internal logic, so it now includes all races and both sexes. Good job, Christian white men. Thanks for the great idea.
Is this a parody?
Insofar as men and women are physical creations, their central purpose is the production of more human beings. Women are therefore fashioned in body and mind to make and nurture children, and men to protect and support those children during their relatively long maturation period.
Then why do some assholes leave when they found out they got their girlfriend pregnant? Shouldn't they biologically want to stay and protect her?
In many societies, these structures became increasingly ritualistic and oppressive for women. But the opposite happened in the Christian West.
Because of feminism. I mean, it's not like if they didn't speak up, they would have gotten the right to vote.
Now, the developments of modernity have created special challenges for women. Industry removed clothing and food production from the home to the factory, and thus deprived homemakers of their traditional businesses.
And maybe that's why women want to get involved in fields that were dominated by men?
In a Western civilization dedicated to equal rights, new technologies and effective birth control allow individual women to tailor gender roles to their personal liking or abandon them altogether.
You just spent the whole video saying women are biologically wanting to be mothers, they are wanted by God to procreate, and now you're just saying, yeah, you can abandon all that.
These new opportunities are largely the result of men's inventions and their ideas.
That's right, ladies. You do anything, you have to thank men.
And none of it requires women to abandon the femininity, which is one of the graces of our world.
You just want to jerk off, don't you, Andrew? Whatever. I'll see you in October when I review that movie you wrote that has a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes.
I'm Andrew Clavin for Prager University.
Number 14. Black, millennial, female, and conservative?
I recently discovered something startling about myself. It turns out that I'm a racist, sexist, misogynist.
Well, the first step to fixing your problem is to admit you have it. Also, you're sexist and misogynist, so you're sexist towards men and a misogynist towards women.
I voted for Barack Obama. Twice. After all, we share the same skin color.
That's just stupid. That'd be like voting for Hillary Clinton just because she's a woman. Wait.
His father was from Africa. Mine was too. What other reasons did I need?
Well, there were all those things he promised and never delivered on.
I believed his ascent would herald a new beginning, a new era of racial healing and harmony.
Oh, you poor, naive fool.
I realized there was a big contradiction in my own life. I considered myself a free thinker, but I was thinking exactly what I was supposed to.
That's the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard. I thought I was a free thinker, but I was actually thinking exactly what I was supposed to. That's like something a psychopath would say.
I belonged to several campus feminist groups. I was even teaching feminism to inner city girls.
Well, you seem to be really bad at it when your lesson is, I am woman.
Part of that teaching involved making the case for abortion. But one day I asked myself, isn't it men who benefit most from consequence-free sex? Doesn't that give them even more power over women?
Wait, what?
Isn't it men who benefit most from consequence-free sex? Doesn't that give them even more power over women?
What does that mean? How does a woman getting to choose what she does with her own body give more power to men? I mean, I can't even argue against the points because I don't really know what the point is.
And of course, abortion certainly doesn't empower the woman it prevents from ever being born.
So we can abort boys? Wow, you really are misandrist.
I was called anti-woman, But I'm not anti-woman, I thought. I am a woman.
If I can be anti-man, you can be anti-woman. It's only fair.
I want to be strong, like Michelle.
Well, Michelle's pro-choice, so...
African Americans are disproportionately affected by the saturation of our society by firearms. We demand that firearms be banned in all spaces occupied by Black people. Why would you want to ban firearms only in Black areas? I was called a race traitor, even by white people. But I'm not anti-Black. I am Black.
Hey, if I can be anti-white, you can be anti-Black. It's only fair.
Why were Blacks doing so poorly in cities that had been run by Democrats for decades?
Yes, Black people are only doing bad in cities run by Democrats. In cities run by Republicans, they're doing phenomenal.
The more questions I asked, the less popular I became.
I like to imagine this is like the kid from Rocket's Your Decision. Like, she's telling us one story where she's like this innocent victim just trying to give her opinion, but there's probably another story where she's being a condescending prick and judging her friends.
I wasn't going to be anyone's victim, which meant I had to protect myself. So I bought a gun.
Yeah, in that scenario, you would have been shot 5 times before you could even grab the gun.
I started to advocate for gun rights. That cost me more friends.
I love the Muslim woman and the man bun guy in that graphic. They're just so torn up about it, like, she's fighting for gun rights.
I joined the pro-life movement and walked in the March for Life.
Because abortion gives men more power over women.
I voted Republican, the party that views me as an empowered individual, able to shape my own destiny.
So the message is, don't vote for Democrats because you're Black and a woman. Vote for Republicans because you're Black and a woman.
And that's how I became a racist, sexist, misogynist.
Well, at least you admit it.
This is one of the saddest videos I've ever seen. This woman basically completely changed her personality and lost all her friends because she's a complete tool.
I'm Antonia Okafor for Prager University.
Number 13. I learned more at McDonald's than at college.
Then you went to a shitty school.
Here's what I was told during my freshman orientation at Haverford College. Ask for help when you need it. Speak up when you feel uncomfortable. Place your own well-being above all other concerns.
Okay. I see no problems with that. Like, zero.
In short, the school was ready to protect me from any personal slights or hurt feelings I might suffer.
Bit more complicated than that, but okay.
What counted as a personal slight or similar offense was up to me to define.
Really? At my school is up to Dr. Martin, the nature writing professor. Your way makes so much more sense.
At McDonald's, where I worked before I started school, acting in this way would have probably cost me my job.
Okay. School and job are not the same thing.
I worked at the front counter. That meant that if there was a problem with an order, I had to deal with it.
It got really stressful when all the customers just decided to throw their meals at me at the same time, but I stayed calm.
Oddly enough, customers were not interested in carefully crafting their complaints in such a way as to spare my feelings.
And we call those people assholes.
And they had a right to have their meal served the way they ordered it.
There is nothing in the Constitution that says customers have a right to the food they ordered. Yeah, Prager, you thrown that right back in your face.
If a mistake was made, we fixed it as quickly as possible and didn't talk back, even if I believed the customer had misunderstood some aspect of their order and was actually the one at fault. I was instructed to give the person the benefit of the doubt.
At your job, this is good advice, but it's going to become horrifying in a minute.
There was no trigger warning for when a customer was about to start yelling, no safe spaces to go to when the restaurant would get so busy that I barely had time to breathe between orders.
Yeah, that's not what a safe space is, ma'am.
When a group of men in the drive-thru would whistle and catcall me as they pulled away, there was no university administrator for me to run to for soothing and reassurance. And from these experiences, the good, the bad, and the flat-out ugly, I grew. Or, to use a word one doesn't see much anymore, I matured. I learned to take care of myself in ways that didn't inconvenience anyone, or draw unnecessary attention to myself, or let my personal problems interfere with the work that had to be done.
And it seems to have worked out great for you. Listen to her. She sounds like an abuse victim trying to rationalize staying in the abusive relationship.
Had I complained to my McDonald's manager that I became anxious when the restaurant was crowded, or that hearing complaints from customers made me nervous, he would have politely handed me my paycheck and shown me the door.
I think even the most stubborn McDonald's manager would at least consider putting you in the back.
So, I'm grateful to have worked at McDonald's. It taught me how to better handle my anxiety
By bottling up every single emotion I have.
It strengthened my character, my work ethic, and my sense of my own resilience. These are lessons that cannot be learned in the safe spaces of the Haverford campus.
Yep, that's what this video is about. Schools shouldn't make their kids feel safe and comfortable. They should treat them like McDonald's employees. Toughen up those special little snowflakes. Now anyone paying attention can probably see the obvious flaw here. In college, the students are the customers. So if the main job of McDonald's is to make the customers comfortable and happy, why shouldn't the main job of the college to make the students, aka the customers, comfortable and happy? Have all the safe spaces, trigger warnings, and counseling you want. This video disproves itself.
Also, yeah, if some creep is catcalling or hitting on you, making you uncomfortable in class or somewhere else on campus, you should just sit back and take it.
Putting oneself first is the essence of privilege.
But taking care of yourself is the essence of not leading you to become an anxiety-ridden wreck.
But putting oneself first does not develop character or lead to personal growth. Putting others first does. McDonald's is a far better teacher of that lesson than college.
So you didn't go to college and you want to be a computer engineer? Yes, but I did work at McDonald's and it did help me develop my character.
I'm Olivia Legaspi of Haverford College for Prager University.
Number 12. Every high school principal should say this. This video comes from Dennis Prager himself.
If every high school principal gave the following speech, America would be a much better place.
Every Thursday is Purge Day!
To the students and faculty of our high school, I am your new principal.
Dude, why is the janitor saying he's the new principal? I don't know, but let's just see where it goes.
I would like to apprise you of some important changes coming to our school. First, this school will no longer honor race or ethnicity. I could not care less if you are black, brown, red, yellow, or white. I could not care less if your origins are African, European, Latin American, or Asian.
Well, good for you, I guess. I mean, I thought most schools were like that now.
The only identity this school will recognize is your individual identity, your character, your scholarship, your humanity.
Are you saying we're special? Come on, Mr. Prager. You should know better than telling these kids they're special little snowflakes.
I will not authorize clubs that divide students based on identities such as race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, or whatever else may become in vogue in our society.
What about religious clubs?
Those clubs cultivate narcissism, an unhealthy preoccupation with the self.
But what if I want to join an LGBT club even though I'm not gay or trans? Wouldn't that be like the opposite of narcissism?
The school's clubs will be based on interests and passions.
What if I'm passionate about African American studies?
Second, I do not care whether English is your native language. You leave this school speaking and writing English as fluently as possible.
I do kind of agree with this, but not for the same reasons. I do think you should learn English if you're going to live here, just to make it easier, since majority of us only speak English, whereas he wants to do it just because he doesn't want to hear people speaking Spanish.
We will learn other languages here. It's deplorable that most Americans only speak English.
I actually do agree with that. That is really pathetic.
Third, everything in this school will reflect learning's elevated status. You and your teachers will dress accordingly. There will be a dress code at this school.
Individual identity. Also, can the principal do that? Don't they have to go through like the school board or superintendent for that? I mean, maybe that's how it works, but it just doesn't make much sense.
And you will address all teachers by their title, not by their first name.
Through all of my schooling, kindergarten through my last year of college, I had one professor who wanted us to refer to him by a nickname.
Fourth, no obscene language will be tolerated anywhere on this school's property.
Goddamn Marxists trying to take away our freedom of speech. Yeah, I know that's not actually a freedom of speech issue, but in most cases they do.
By obscene language, I mean the words banned on radio and television, plus epithets such as the B word, even when addressed by one girl to another, or the N-word, even when used by one black student to another.
Naviance? Also, I love that these high school girls can't call each other bitches, and then 3 months later when they go to college, they have to listen to seminars with someone saying that a woman's place is as a housewife. What is with that 3-month span where you have to go from not saying certain words to having to tolerate people saying certain words?
Fifth, we will end all self-esteem programs.
Well, maybe we wouldn't need them if the school did a good job in actually teaching the students. You gonna explain how you're gonna do better in that department?
Sixth, I am reorienting the school toward academics and away from politics and propaganda.
The irony is stunning.
No more time will be devoted to racism, sexism, Islamophobia, homophobia.
So history class is just gone, just completely gone.
Global warming.
And there goes science.
Tobacco or gender identity.
And there goes health. So 3 major classes have been diminished so much they might as well not even exist.
No more classes will be devoted to condom wearing and teaching you to regard sexual relations as no more than a health issue.
By God, Dennis, I am so glad you are not my principal.
And there will be no more attempts to convince you that you are a victim because you are not white or male or heterosexual or Christian.
Even the straight white Christian men are victims here. You're all victims of a bad education.
This school will have failed if any of you graduate without considering him or herself inordinately lucky.
Well, then you absolutely failed.
Now, please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of our country. As many of you do not know the words, your teachers will hand them out to you.
It's not that they don't know the words, it's that they don't want to say them, and you can't force them to.
I'm Dennis Prager.
Number 11. The Strange Death of Comedy. Oh goody, a shitty comedian telling us that no one is laughing at his bad jokes because of political correctness.
In today's hypersensitive world, it's hard to know what's funny anymore. And as someone who makes his living as a comedian, that's a big problem.
You have a Twitter. Let's see some of your jokes, shall we?
Hey, David Hogg, feel free to try and boycott me. I don't have sponsors because I don't need them. Oopsie. Anyway, when did you grow pubes? Don't you think it's weird that you are telling grown men how to live when you barely have pubes? College is gay, BTW. Enjoy gay college, lol. I would love it if David Hogg repeated any tweets I said to him on CNN. It would make me laugh so fucking hard if they called me hateful because I said he isn't old enough to have pubes. Fuck. The more serious people get about my hatred, the funnier it is. Last thought of the night. Good chance David Hogg hasn't grown pubes yet, and he's trying to limit your constitutional rights. Think about that. Good night, America.
Why are you so obsessed with a 17-year-old's genitals?
Comedy is important. Why? Because it's a pressure valve that allows us to discuss uncomfortable truths in a friendly way.
I was like a fat kid with really tight 80s shorts. If I had the wrong progressive Portland soy dad, they probably would have chopped my cock off.
How many times have you heard someone say something like this? You're not black, so you don't know what it's like to be me. You're a man, so you can't have an opinion about any issues affecting women. As a left-handed pansexual leprechaun, only I really know about elevator safety.
This is the humor we got here, folks.
Take this joke. Why do you always go fishing with at least 2 Baptists? Because if you only take one, he'll drink all your beer.
What?
The reason this gets a laugh is because most of us recognize that many religious people are a little more religious around other religious people. That hypocrisy is funny because everyone can relate to it on some level. We're all a little hypocritical now and then.
I think that's PragerU's tagline.
The problem is that today, fewer and fewer people seem to agree on the basics. You know, shared assumptions.
We need to stereotype more, damn it.
I recently did a joke on stage. People keep comparing Donald Trump to Adolf Hitler. He's nothing like Hitler. Hitler would have never let CNN talk like that. Anderson Cooper wouldn't have made it through the night of the long knives. There are people that don't understand that joke.
That's not a joke, that's a statement.
And the reason is, that joke requires us all to agree that Hitler was a bad, bad man. And that the night of long knives was a bad, bad thing. And that President Trump, whether you like him or not, isn't anything like that bad, bad man who did that bad, bad thing. And I wouldn't want him to be.
That little head nod solidified its place on this list. I hate that condescending shit. Stop doing it. That goes for everybody.
During the run-up to the release of the movie Black Panther, all the marketing push was about how, finally, there was a black movie made by black people, with black people for black people.
Were there other advertisements I didn't see? I don't remember those trailers.
So I simply took any statement about the film and responded, as a white person, that actually had that insane way of viewing the world. I just saw the trailer for Black Panther. Ugh, no white people. Looks terrible. Hard pass. Who am I supposed to relate to? No one's white.
There were white people in it.
I was releasing a little social stress through satire.
Well then, you are really, really bad at it.
Nobody takes themselves more seriously than these former comedians. Seems like Jimmy Kimmel cries more often than he tells jokes these days.
I don't really watch Kimmel, so I can't really comment that much, but the only times I've heard of him crying are after mass shootings and when his child got sick.
And Stephen Colbert is just Rachel Maddow with punchlines.
Alright, you may or may not like Colbert, but comparing him to Rachel Maddow seems a bit harsh.
They're only telling jokes for half the country now.
As opposed to you, who's telling them to 5 people.
There's no shortage of things to laugh about. We just need to find them together. The left doesn't share the same goals that liberals and conservatives do. They have a whole different set of goals. And if we don't, we'll explode. And that's not a joke.
I refuse to believe that this guy and Steven Crowder are the best comedians the right has.
I'm Owen Benjamin for Prager University.
Number 10. So you think you're tolerant. Oh, Dave Rubin, you continue to disappoint me.
This guy could have been a good moderator between the left and right, but instead he shows what happens when your values are freedom of speech and nothing else.
Tolerance is the ability to live with people whose opinions and behavior you don't agree with.
The question they were asked is if adults should be allowed to screw 12-year-olds, so that black guy just needs to run.
You might be against a $15 minimum wage and your coworker might be for it. Your dad might have voted for Trump, your mom might have voted for Clinton, and your brother may not have voted at all.
To be fair, he was so fucking baked he thinks he's on Neptune.
America itself was built on a foundation of tolerance. The Declaration of Independence guarantees us life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But there's an implicit contract there. To have your life, your liberty, and your pursuit of happiness, you have to be tolerant of somebody else's life, their liberty, and their pursuit of happiness.
But what if their pursuit of happiness impedes my pursuit of happiness? That's kind of what we're all fighting about here.
If you listen to the mainstream media, only one side is living up to this deal. The left.
Is that supposed to be Don Lemon?
The right, according to the media, is intolerant of everyone. Except those darned white heterosexual Christian males.
Hi, I hijacked your TV signal to tell you about the good word of Jesus Christ.
There's only one problem. It's just not true.
And if the video ended there, I'd have no problems, but no, he has to go on.
The left isn't even tolerant of the very people they say they're tolerant of. If you're gay or black or an immigrant and you're not in lockstep with current leftist orthodoxy, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Do not ever have your drawings move again.
If you believe we should judge people on the content of their character and not the color of their skin, the left calls you racist.
Give me an example. Go ahead. I'm not saying there's not, but you brought it up, so give me one example of that actually happening.
If you believe that America is a nation of immigrants, but that our country should also protect its borders, the left calls you a xenophobe.
Only if you want to protect one border. I'm all for building a wall on the Canadian border too. I don't want no roaming Canadians running into my country.
If you believe that men and women are equal but fundamentally different, the left calls you sexist.
Is that sexist? Compared to what we've seen and what we will see, no.
So who is tolerant? Is it the organizers of the Women's March who had to apologize for the hurt and confusion they caused when they invited a man, leftist icon Bernie Sanders, to speak at their convention?
Yeah, that was for several reasons, all of them stupid.
Is it the Antifa thugs who caused UC Berkeley to spend $600,000 on security when mainstream conservative Ben Shapiro showed up to give a talk?
When in doubt, Berkeley!
Or is it Democratic Congresswoman Maxine Waters who scolded Kanye West for talking out of turn when he dared suggest that blacks should think for themselves?
Yeah, Maxine Waters does kind of suck, but Kanye was saying some pretty stupid shit.
Who is tolerant? It's actually those scary right-wingers that the media and the universities demonize every day. I speak from personal experience.
You speak from personal experience? Okay. I've had some personal experiences with people on the right who are tolerant, but I've also had personal experiences with people on the left who are tolerant. So if we're going through anecdotal evidence,
I would rather stand for what I believe and be hated than bow down and be loved.
But the left isn't allowed to stand up for what they believe in?
Believe it or not, the right these days actually welcomes diversity of thought.
I think we should tax all millionaires at 99%, abort half of fetuses conceived in a given year, make fossil fuels illegal, and ban all guns. How's that for diversity of thought? I don't actually believe any of those things, just in case you didn't get the sarcasm.
Now, some of his criticisms of some members of the left are valid. There have been cases of people losing their shit at the very idea of someone having a different opinion, but remember, when PragerU is referring to the left, they mean everyone from actual communists to left-of-center libertarians. And in some cases, even conservatives who are cool with LGBT rights and not wanting us to fuck around in the Middle East.
Go talk to some. They do exist, and they do things like watch movies, travel, and eat ethnic food. You know, regular people things.
But those on the left just sit on their computers getting offended at everything and eating their vegan hot dogs.
The right, much more than the left, believes in the notion of live and let live.
Again, I don't disagree with the fact that there are people on the right, probably most of them, who are like that, but I'm pretty sure that there are people on the left who are too, so it's just fucking straw manning.
I'm Dave Rubin of the Rubin Report for Prager University.
Number 9. Feminism 2.0. This is the oldest video on the list by a long shot, being released in February of 2014.
I want to talk to you about a new feminism for the 21st century.
Really? Do we need a new one? Are we on the 3rd or 4th wave by this point? Also, didn't we have a video earlier saying we don't need feminism at all?
There are 3 pillars to this new feminism: dignity, the word no, and men. Dignity is at the core of what feminism should always be about.
I mean, it's supposed to be about equality and choice. I mean, you can choose to be indignant.
Ask almost any female college student today what she aspires to be, and she'll list any number of career choices. The one she won't list is wife and mother.
Because that's not a job. Well, okay, it is a job, but not when you get paid for. When you ask a man what they want to do for a career, you don't expect them to say father and husband.
A new feminism will value and respect all responsible choices.
Yeah, okay, there are groups of feminists who do begrudge the idea of being a mother and housewife, even if that's the girl's choice, but you're basically saying they should go down that path, so...
I can't think of anything less dignified for women than the feminist belief that in the sexual arena, women are like, and therefore ought to act like, men.
Oh no! Women are going to a male strip show.
Is this what the truly liberated woman wants?
Some of them.
To have casual sex and think nothing of it like men do?
Again, some of them.
That's what feminism aspires to?
It should aspire to give women the choice to do that.
Feminism has downplayed the desire for women to have a family, while at the same time hyping the rewards of career and casual sex. Not exactly a recipe for success or happiness.
So having a career isn't rewarding? And you do know that there are thousands, if not millions of women all over the world who have both a career and a family?
The second pillar of a new feminism is the word no. Throughout history, women have made great use of the word no.
No. Yeah, I'm sure in ancient Egypt, a woman could deny anything to a man. Well, unless she's the queen and he's just a lonely peasant, which, if that's the case, the balls on that guy trying to bang the queen.
There is great power in that word no.
Unless you're telling it to a rapist.
Women who fought not to be treated as sex objects have become more objectified than ever. You see it everywhere, in music videos, on billboards, in the hookup culture, on campuses.
Again, that is a woman making a choice. You don't have to agree with that choice, and that's fine, but it's still her decision.
And now we have the tawdry spectacle of teenage girls sexually pursuing teenage boys the way boys pursued girls.
Oh no, girls wanting to have sex. How horrible! Well, it does look like this guy is just not into her, so I think the concern here isn't that she wants sex, but that she's trying to rape him.
How did this happen? Because feminism began to advocate that women should behave like men. Whatever men did and however they did it, that's what women should do.
Stuff like smoking weed and weightlifting.
Saying no means I will not be defined by anyone else, not by feminists, and not by men's sexual desires.
Again, it's a choice, and well, I'm sure there are women and men who have been pressured into sex when they really didn't want to. That's not really the fault of feminism.
Men. It is easy for feminists to forget this, but it was men who gave up their monopoly on political power and gave women the right to vote.
Yeah, because women kept protesting to get it. It's not like all the guys just said, hey, you know what, guys, let's just give the women the right to vote. I mean, I know they aren't saying anything, but It just seems like the right thing to do.
Men who invented birth control, the refrigerator, the washing machine, and so many other devices that liberated women.
Women were liberated by the refrigerator. That is the dumbest thing I've heard all day.
The sexes need each other. For example, women civilize men.
Whoa!
It's what we're supposed to do.
Well, this video took a fucking turn. I thought this was just going to be misogynistic. I didn't think it was going to insult men this blatantly.
That's the way to a new feminism, and the way to a better world for both sexes.
So this new form of feminism is trying to make women act in a certain way, and if they don't act that way, they're not real women, and it's a way of controlling men. I know there's an obvious joke there, but at this point, I'm too dumbfounded to make it.
I'm Tammy Bruce for Prager University.
Number 8. American media, Soviet tactics. PragerU has 3 main enemies: Democratic politicians and pretty much anyone who votes for them, universities, or really any public schools at all, and the mainstream media. This one comes to us from James O'Keefe, founder of Project Veritas, a man who was proven in court to have heavily edited videos to smear his political opponents.
Consistent with the Orwellian nature of the Soviet Union, the country's most important newspaper was Pravda. Pravda is the Russian word for truth.
You know what else means truth? Veritas.
Ironically, unlike most citizens in the Soviet Union, citizens in 21st century America are fooled by their news media. We think we're getting the real story from our major media, but we're not. When we tune into the networks or read the New York Times or the Washington Post...
What the hell happened to their faces? Did they fall asleep on the tanning bed again? God damn it, Anderson, we told you. You have to change sides every 10 minutes.
We're actually getting a sharply slanted version of the news. Slanted to the left.
Yeah, I don't deny that most mainstream media has a liberal bias, but you have a conservative bias, so why should I listen to you?
In 2017, Project Veritas sent out undercover reporters to see how committed the major media was to objective news gathering.
And it was surprisingly not very objective.
Our first report focused on CNN. A producer there, John Bonifield, acknowledged the lack of evidence for his network's efforts to link the Trump campaign and the Russian government in a plot to rig the 2016 election.
Yep, John Bonifield, the guy from CNN's medical unit. Now, I'm not saying he doesn't have any insight, but using a guy from the medical unit to talk about the Russia investigation seems a bit pointless.
We released another series of reports, these on the New York Times. First, we heard from Nick Dudek, the paper's audience strategy editor. Dudek told our undercover reporter he was responsible for choosing which New York Times videos go on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram.
So he's basically a glorified social media manager.
He hoped to use his position to make the president's life as difficult as possible. I will be objective, he told our reporter with undisguised sarcasm before revealing his true intentions. No, I'm not. That's why I'm here.
This sounds like the villainous plot in the dumbest political thriller of all time. Hey, I'm gonna put negative news about Trump in all of our social media to make his life hell.
Next, we met Des Shu.
Oh, come on, you just made that up. That's not a real name, and I'll be damned.
I think one of the things that maybe journalists were thinking about is like, oh, if we write about Trump and how insanely crazy he is, and how ludicrous his policies are, then maybe people will read it and be like, oh wow, we shouldn't vote for him.
That just means they have a bias. I mean, yeah, everyone knows that. Everyone knows that fucking CNN has a left-leaning bias, and so does the Washington Post, and all those frickin' mainstream medias except Fox, but that doesn't mean they're lying.
Interesting how he doesn't mention the failed Washington Post sting where they attempted to discredit Roy Moore accusers. That fell apart when the Washington Post did, you know, journalism and fact-checking.
A real journalist, he told a panel at the National Press Club, has to have in his or her heart a desire to make society better. The Times' editor is wrong. Real journalists want to pursue the truth. Then they let the citizens use that truth to build a better society.
So I guess you're not a real journalist then.
Perhaps this wouldn't be so bad if the major media would just admit their political motives. But they don't.
Why are you talking like that?
On behalf of their own narrow agenda, they lie, distort, and exaggerate. And they expect us to call it Pravda. But with each passing day, fewer and fewer Americans are willing to do so.
Well, I don't know about that, James, but one thing I do know is that a few days after this video was released, 5 journalists were shot dead in Maryland.
I'm James O'Keefe, founder and president of Project Veritas for Prager University.